Welcome to Sleepy Science. Tonight, you'll hear the most relaxing facts about human evolution, simple, clear truths about where we came from, how our bodies changed, and why we look and live the way we do today. You'll learn how ancient bones shaped your spine, how old instincts shaped your mind, and how every part of you carries quiet traces of the humans who came before. If you enjoy calm science that helps you sleep, make sure you subscribe. In the beginning, the world was calm in a way we can barely imagine. It was young, still settling, still shaping the oceans and mountains that would one day hold life. There were no humans, no animals, no plants, and no sounds except the quiet movement of water and heat rising from the Earth's surface. Yet inside this peaceful world, the first steps toward our story slowly began. The early oceans held simple chemicals drifting through warm water. When sunlight touched them and minerals mixed in, something unusual happened. These chemicals started to form tiny structures that could copy themselves. They were not alive the way we think of life today, but they were the first building blocks that would eventually lead to every living thing, including you. Over time, these tiny structures became simple cells. They floated like dust in calm water, taking energy from sunlight or from dissolved minerals. Most of the time they stayed the same, but every now and then, one cell copied itself with a small difference. That small difference could make it stronger or help it survive a bit longer, and nature quietly kept those helpful changes. For millions of years, these cells continued to change. Some learned to work together, forming small groups that shared food and protected each other. These groups slowly became the first bodies. They were still tiny and soft, but they could bend, move, and react to the world in simple ways. They were learning how to live, even without eyes or legs or bones. Eventually, some of these early forms developed tiny hair-like parts that helped them glide through the water. It wasn't fast, but it allowed them to explore new places and reach more food. Every small discovery opened a new path for life to grow more complex. These simple movements were the earliest steps on a long road that would one day create creatures able to walk, run, and think. As countless ages passed, life continued its quiet work. Bodies became more organized. Some developed a front and a back, and a side that led the way forward. Even though these creatures looked nothing like humans, they were building the basic plan that all complex animals would follow. This plan would eventually shape fish, reptiles, mammals, and finally the human form. A major step happened when some early creatures developed a stiff rod through their bodies. This rod, the ancestor of all backbones, helped them move with more control and power. It also gave their bodies support, making it easier to grow larger and explore new environments. Our own spine traces its roots to this simple structure that first appeared in ancient seas. Eyes appeared next, but not the eyes we know. They started as tiny spots that could sense only light and dark. Even that small ability changed everything. These early eyes helped creatures find food, avoid danger, and move more confidently through their world. Over time, these spots became more detailed, and nature kept improving them, slowly leading toward the eyes humans have today. Every improvement led to another. Some creatures grew fins that helped them glide through the water more smoothly. Some developed small jaws that allowed them to eat in new ways. Others grew stronger muscles and more flexible bodies. Each change happened slowly, but together they created the first true animals with complex shapes and behaviors. These early fish filled the oceans with movement and life. Some stayed near the surface, while others explored deeper waters. Different environments created different challenges, and with each challenge came a chance for a new form to appear. This quiet process continued for millions of years, always guided by small changes that helped life survive. Eventually, some fish began to develop stronger fins that could push against the ground. Shallow waters were full of plants and insects, and the ability to move along the bottom gave them an advantage. These fins would one day become legs, but in this early stage they were only simple supports. Still, they opened a path that only needed time. Nothing about this process was fast, but every generation carried small improvements. A thicker bone, a slightly stronger grip, a body that could take in air for a moment above the surface. These quiet steps slowly led life out of the water and onto land. They also set the stage for the long chain of species that would eventually give rise to humans. Deep time can feel impossible to imagine, but every second of your life is connected to these calm beginnings. Every breath you take, every movement of your hands, every thought in your mind carries a trace of those early changes. The first cells, the first bodies, the first eyes, the first bones, all of them were slowly building toward the human form. You are part of that story, shaped by countless small steps that happened long before any human walked the earth. And as you listen, the distant past feels soft and peaceful, like a long, quiet ocean holding the first sparks of everything we know today. When we move forward in time from the earliest animals, we start to see a small group of creatures who would quietly shape our future. They were not large, loud, or powerful. They were tiny mammals living high in the trees, hidden under leaves and branches, moving carefully so no one would notice them. These early primates did not know it, but every soft step they took in the canopy was a step toward the story of humans. Their world was slow, gentle, and filled with the sounds of leaves brushing in the wind. And when you imagine that peaceful place, it becomes easier to understand how small changes can guide the shape of life. The first primates were about the size of mice or small squirrels. They had warm bodies covered in fur and lived most of their lives away from the ground, where danger waited. In the trees, they could hide better, sleep in safety, and search for small insects or sweet fruits without being chased by larger animals. They moved quietly and rarely made sudden noises, because the forest was full of predators who listened for anything unusual. This calm life in the branches shaped how they evolved, slowly giving them features that would later define an entire family of creatures, including us. Even though these early primates never rushed, their slow way of living became the foundation for something much greater. One of the most important changes in these early primates was their sense of vision. At first, their eyes were not very different from other small mammals. Many animals from that time depended mostly on their sense of smell to survive. But life in the trees demanded something more. When you jump from one branch to another, a small mistake can be deadly. You need to know exactly where your hands and feet will land. You need to see leaves, branches, and shadows clearly. So over many generations, early primates developed sharper eyesight. Their eyes slowly moved to the front of their faces, giving them better depth perception. This let them judge distance more accurately, which made climbing safer. It also gave them a clearer view of insects, fruits, and other food hidden between the leaves. As their vision improved, the world around them became more detailed. They could sense tiny movements in the corner of their eyes. They could spot subtle color differences, which helped them find ripe fruits. This quiet improvement in eyesight was one of the key steps that later helped humans read expressions, make tools, and explore the world. But long before that, it simply helped a small animal survive among the branches. Sometimes the most powerful changes happen in the softest moments, where no one notices them but nature itself. Along with better vision came another gift that shaped their future: grasping hands. Most animals at that time had paws or claws designed for running or climbing rough surfaces. But early primates developed flexible fingers and toes that could wrap around branches gently and hold on tight. Their hands did not need to be powerful, they needed to be precise. They developed nails instead of claws, giving their fingers a wider surface to touch and feel things. This helped them hold onto food, explore textures, and move through the trees without slipping. It is strangely calming to think that one small creature learning to hold onto a branch would eventually lead to humans holding pens, tools, and even the hands of people they love. Their grasping hands also slowed down their way of life. Instead of running fast, they learned to move thoughtfully. They climbed with care, tested branches before stepping on them, and used their hands to explore what was safe and what was not. This quiet style of movement reduced accidents and taught them to trust their senses. Over time, their brains were shaped by this careful behavior. They needed to process more information about space, balance, and touch. This slow, gentle way of exploring the world became a key part of the primate mind. And you can still feel it today when humans reach out to examine something with their fingers before deciding what to do next. These early primates lived simple, peaceful lives. They ate when they found food, rested when they felt tired, and spent long hours grooming each other in the safety of the canopy. Grooming was not just about cleaning. It was a quiet way to form trust. When one primate cleaned the fur of another, it created calm bonds that helped them stay safe and connected. This early form of social behavior planted the seeds for future communication, cooperation, and emotional warmth in later primates, including humans. Even in their tiny bodies, the early echoes of human connection were beginning to form. Their nights were calm and cool. Many of these primates were active during low light, where their improved vision gave them an advantage. They slowly searched for insects by watching for small movements on leaves. They used their hands to hold fruits carefully without dropping them. They rarely needed to hurry because they had mastered their environment. Each day was a gentle cycle of finding food, grooming, resting, and exploring. This slow lifestyle gave them time to observe, learn, and adapt, helping them survive in a world where bigger animals depended on speed rather than careful thought. Even though they were small, early primates were survivors. They faced storms that shook the trees, predators that waited in silence, and new challenges as forests changed over time. But their flexible hands, better vision, and slow thinking helped them handle these changes. Their evolution was like a calm breath taken across millions of years, one soft improvement after another. These traits did not appear suddenly. They grew quietly, shaped by the peaceful rhythm of the canopy. As forests expanded and new plants appeared, these early primates followed the food and shelter they needed. They explored higher branches, tested new fruits, and adjusted to new weather patterns. Their ability to adapt gently was one of their greatest strengths. They were not the strongest or the fastest, but they were steady. They stayed alive because they paid attention to their surroundings in a soft and careful way. That quiet awareness was passed down through time, slowly building the intelligence that would later shape the human mind. If you imagine sitting with these early primates high above the forest floor, you might hear the soft rustle of leaves and the gentle tapping of small hands against bark. You might notice the way they pause before jumping, as if thinking through the safest path. You might see them grooming each other with calm patience. In that peaceful moment, you can almost feel how these simple creatures carried the earliest sparks of what would become human behavior. The rise of early primates was not loud or dramatic. It was a slow, steady transformation happening quietly in the treetops. Every improvement in their senses, every careful movement, and every moment spent bonding with each other was part of a long path leading to us. When you trace this gentle path through time, you begin to see how something so small and peaceful could one day shape the future of an entire species. That soft beginning still lives within us today, in the way we use our hands, the way we look into the world, and the way we connect with others through simple, calm moments. As time continued its slow movement across millions of years, the small early primates of the canopy began to change. Their world was still peaceful and full of green light filtering through leaves, but the challenges around them slowly shifted. New plants appeared, forests spread and shrank, and different predators moved through the shadows. To survive, these tiny tree dwellers began to grow bigger and stronger. Their bodies changed in ways that would gently guide them toward becoming the first apes. This transformation did not happen in a rush. It was like a long, quiet breath taken by nature, shaping creatures who were slowly becoming more aware, more capable, and more connected to their surroundings. The earliest apes were larger than the small primates that came before them. They no longer looked like tiny animals that darted between branches. Their bodies grew heavier, and their muscles became stronger, especially around their shoulders and upper bodies. These changes made it easier for them to swing or hang from branches, something the smaller primates could not do as easily. Their shoulders became more flexible, allowing them to move in many directions. This new freedom of motion gave them the ability to explore their environment in a different way, moving not just along branches but under them, over them, and between them with calm confidence. As their bodies changed, their movements also became smoother and more powerful. They could reach farther, pull themselves up with greater strength, and cross gaps that smaller primates would have avoided. This new style of movement opened up a wider part of the forest for them to explore. They learned to travel across bigger areas, sometimes moving slowly and carefully along thick branches, and other times swinging gracefully through the trees when they needed to cover more distance. This gentle but steady growth of strength was one of the early steps toward the kind of powerful bodies that great apes would later develop. Their diets also began to shift as their bodies changed. While the smaller primates mostly ate insects and soft fruits, these early apes started to explore a wider range of foods. Their larger jaws and stronger teeth allowed them to eat tougher fruits, leaves, and even bark when food was hard to find. This gave them more freedom, because they were not limited to delicate, easily spoiled foods. They could survive changes in seasons and shortages much better than their ancestors. This calm ability to adapt made them more resilient, giving them the strength to face new climates and forest changes across time. Along with physical changes, social behavior also evolved. Early apes began to form stronger group bonds, living in small but close communities. Spending time together helped them stay safe from predators, care for young ones, and share information about safe paths or good food spots. Grooming became even more meaningful, not just for cleaning but for building trust within the group. When one ape gently cleaned the fur of another, it strengthened the connection between them. These quiet moments of care helped shape the emotional world that would later become an important part of human life. You can imagine them resting on a wide branch, sunlight passing through the leaves, while they groom each other with soft movements, creating a peaceful bond that helped them survive together. Communication also improved during this time. Early apes used a wider range of sounds, facial expressions, and gestures to share simple messages. A soft grunt could warn of danger, a gentle call could keep the group together, and a playful gesture could invite a young ape to explore. Even though their communication was not yet complex, these early signals were the beginning of the rich emotional expressions that apes and humans use today. It is interesting to think that the simple, quiet sounds of these ancient apes carried the first hints of laughter, comfort, and warning calls that would later grow into human speech. With stronger bodies, flexible shoulders, and better communication, these early apes explored forests in ways the smaller primates could not. They climbed higher into the canopy to reach fruits that others could not reach. They tested thicker branches and larger trees, moving through the forest with a combination of power and gentle awareness. Sometimes they ventured closer to the ground to find new foods or water sources, although they still preferred the safety of the trees. Their curiosity helped them discover new places, and over generations, some groups slowly moved into different parts of the world as forests expanded or shifted. Their growing curiosity and problem-solving abilities became early signs of the traits that would later define great apes and humans. They learned from experience, remembered safe paths, and passed knowledge to younger ones simply by letting them follow and observe. A young ape would watch its mother choose fruit, climb carefully, or avoid certain branches, and over time, these lessons shaped the habits of the entire group. This slow transfer of knowledge created the early roots of culture, long before humans existed. It is common to imagine how simple actions like picking the right fruit or choosing a safe branch carried wisdom across generations, without a single word spoken. As their brains grew slightly larger, early apes began to understand their environment more deeply. They planned their movements with a bit more thought, recognized patterns around them, and reacted to danger in smarter ways. Their minds were still simple compared to humans, but the spark of intelligence was forming. These gentle steps in brain development were preparing the future path for creatures who would one day think, create, and explore in far more advanced ways. The forests they lived in were rich and full of life. Sunlight filtered through tall leaves, creating patches of warm light where they rested. The wind swayed the branches, making soft sounds that mixed with distant calls of birds. Living in such a peaceful environment helped early apes develop patient and observant behavior. They learned to watch quietly before acting and to understand the rhythm of the forest around them. This calm sense of awareness became a strong survival skill, guiding them through complex environments with ease. Their bodies continued to adapt to this life. Their arms grew longer compared to their legs, giving them more power and stability as they moved among the branches. Their hands became even more flexible, able to hold onto thicker branches and handle food with better control. Their sense of balance improved as they moved more confidently across wider sections of the canopy. These small changes added up over long periods of time, shaping bodies that were more like apes than small primates. As their groups grew larger, early apes developed deeper social routines. They protected each other's young, helped injured members, and stayed close during storms or risky times. Their social world became richer and more connected. This sense of community was another step toward the emotional depth seen in modern apes and humans. Even though their thoughts were simple, their ability to care for one another was strong and clear. In the peaceful forests where these early apes lived, the first foundations of human traits were taking form. Flexible shoulders, strong hands, early communication, shared knowledge, and emotional bonds all appeared slowly, one gentle step at a time. None of these changes seemed big on their own, but together they shaped a path that led toward future species with even stronger intelligence and deeper social lives. When you imagine these early apes moving through the trees, you can feel how life was changing in quiet ways. A mother teaching her young, a group resting together in soft light, or an ape carefully reaching for food. All of these moments carried pieces of a future that would one day include humans. Their story reminds us that evolution is not always fast or loud. Sometimes it grows in calm places, in small steps, shaping the world through patience, connection, and gentle strength. In the deep past, long before humans appeared, our ancient ancestors lived in peaceful forests alongside the ancestors of chimpanzees and gorillas. They were not yet separate groups. They looked somewhat similar, lived in the same warm regions, and climbed the same tall trees. They shared fruit, leaves, sunlight, shadows, and the soft rhythm of life in the canopy. For a long time their paths stayed close, but nature was slowly preparing a quiet turning point that would eventually send our lineage in a different direction. The earth itself was changing in gentle but powerful ways. The climate shifted across long ages, sometimes growing warmer, sometimes cooler, and each change pushed the forests to grow, shrink, or move. Rain patterns shifted, shaping new rivers and drying old ones. Areas that were once thick with leaves became more open. Other spaces that were open became dense again. These slow patterns of climate change placed different pressures on each group of early apes. Even small differences in environment could slowly guide them toward different futures. As temperatures changed, wide forest belts in Africa began to break apart. What used to be one endless green canopy started to separate into smaller pieces. Between those forests, open grasslands appeared, quiet stretches of tall grass, scattered trees, and wide views of the sky. Some groups of ancient apes remained inside the safest forest areas. Others found themselves close to the edges where trees were thinner and food changed between seasons. These edge environments were important because they pushed some of our ancestors to explore new ways of living. Around this time, the line that would lead to gorillas began to separate. These ancestors stayed mostly in deep, wet forests with plenty of leaves. Their bodies grew larger and stronger to handle a leafy diet. They continued to live mainly in the trees and on the forest floor, surrounded by thick vegetation. Their path remained tied to the forests that supported them. Our own ancestors, however, faced different conditions. They were living closer to the forest edges where food was more varied and sometimes harder to find. These quiet differences set the first small steps toward the split. As more ages passed, the line leading to chimpanzees also moved in its own direction. Chimp ancestors stayed in forests as well, but they explored them in active and intelligent ways. They climbed, leapt, hunted, and used the canopy as their main world. Their strong arms, sharp awareness, and social behavior made them perfect for forest life. They continued to depend heavily on trees for food and safety. Meanwhile, a separate group, our direct ancestors, was beginning to explore areas with fewer trees. The ground beneath the trees offered new challenges and new opportunities. At first, our ancestors probably came down only for short moments. They might have searched the forest floor for fallen fruit or walked between nearby trees when branches no longer touched. These small steps were simple at first, but each one built confidence. Finding food on the ground became easier with time. Walking short distances became normal, and slowly, the idea of the ground changed from something risky to something familiar. Climate change continued to shape the world, making the forests shrink even more in some regions. With fewer trees to climb and more open spaces to cross, our ancestors needed to adjust. They began to spend more time on the ground, moving on two legs for short stretches. This early upright posture was not the full walking we do today, but it was a step toward it. Standing upright allowed them to look above tall grass and see approaching animals more quickly. It also freed their hands, even for small moments, to carry food back to safer places. The landscapes around them kept shifting, and every change encouraged a little more adaptation. In some places, trees were scattered far apart, creating a mix of forest and open land. This type of environment favored creatures who could use both spaces. Chimps remained mostly inside the deeper forests. Gorillas stayed in very thick vegetation, but our ancestors moved through a world where they needed to balance climbing with walking. Their bodies slowly changed to match this mixed lifestyle. Their arms remained strong for climbing, but their legs began to take on more weight. Their feet flattened slightly to offer better support on the ground. Their spines started to curve in a way that made upright movement more comfortable. None of these changes happened suddenly. They formed over countless generations, always driven by small advantages that helped an individual survive just a bit better. Life on the ground also demanded new types of awareness. In the trees, safety came from height. On the ground, safety required clear vision and careful movement. Our ancestors began to pay more attention to the world around them. The open areas allowed them to see far into the distance. With more space to watch, their eyes and minds worked together in new ways, helping them stay alert, calm, and prepared. Food choices also expanded. On the ground, they found roots, nuts, seeds, and new types of plants. They learned to pick up stones or branches to dig or break open hard shells. These simple actions encouraged more creativity. When an ancestor discovered a helpful behavior, others noticed and copied it. This quiet sharing of ideas strengthened the connection within the group and planted some of the first seeds of early human culture. As their environment changed, so did their social life. Living on the ground meant staying closer together for protection. Group members watched over each other, rested together, and moved as a unit. This deepened their emotional bonds and improved communication. Soft sounds and gestures became even more important during this time. A gentle signal could warn of danger. A simple expression could calm a young one. These early forms of communication supported group stability and helped them survive in unpredictable landscapes. With each generation, their link to the chimp and gorilla lineages grew slightly weaker. The split was not a single moment. It was a slow and natural separation guided by different environments and different needs. Chimps remained fast and agile in the trees. Gorillas grew strong for a leafy diet. And our ancestors became adaptable explorers of both forest and ground. Eventually, the gap between these lineages became clear. Our ancestors were spending most of their time walking, balancing, and gathering food on the ground. They still climbed trees for rest or safety, but the ground had become their main world. Their journey forward was now on a separate path, one that would lead to new forms of early humans. When you imagine this moment in deep time, picture a quiet landscape filled with warm sunlight and scattered trees. A small group of our ancestors moves carefully between patches of shade, stopping to look around, picking up a fruit or a root, and watching each other with calm attention. In that gentle scene lies the quiet beginning of the human line, shaped not by sudden change, but by slow steps, shifting climates, and a growing confidence in walking the earth on 2 feet. There was a point in our ancient story when walking on 2 legs slowly became more than a rare posture. It became a regular way of moving through the world. This change, which seems simple today, was one of the biggest turning points in human evolution. Long before tools, Long before fire and long before language, our ancestors began to rise from all fours and walk upright. This ability shaped everything that came later. To understand how humans became human, we have to look at how this quiet shift happened and why it mattered so much. In the beginning, our ancestors still lived in forests filled with tall trees and thick leaves. They climbed for safety, slept on branches, and moved from tree to tree searching for food. But as the climate changed and forests broke apart into mixed areas of trees and grasslands, they faced new challenges. Food was sometimes farther apart, water sources shifted, tall grass made it harder to see danger. To survive, they needed a new way to move through this changing world. Walking on two legs slowly became the answer. The first steps were not perfect or fully upright. Early hominins probably walked awkwardly at first, with knees bent and feet turned slightly outward. But even this simple form of bipedal movement helped them save energy. Moving on two legs uses far less energy than moving on all fours over long distances. In a world where food was scattered, conserving energy meant living longer. This small advantage pushed evolution gently forward. As generations passed, the bodies of early hominins adapted to this new way of walking. The shape of their hips began to change. In earlier primates, the hips were wide and angled for climbing and swinging. But in the first upright walkers, the hips rotated into a shape that supported the body above two legs. This new hip structure helped balance their weight and kept them steady. It allowed the spine to rest above the pelvis in a more efficient way, helping them stay upright without too much effort. Their legs also changed. They grew longer in relation to their arms. Longer legs made each step more effective, allowing them to cover more distance with fewer movements. The femur, or thigh bone, angled inward slightly, bringing their knees under their center of gravity. This simple adjustment helped keep them stable as they walked. Instead of swaying side to side like chimps, their bodies moved smoothly forward. Every change made walking easier and safer. Their feet transformed as well. Early primates had flexible feet with curved toes designed for gripping branches. But early hominins began to develop wider, stronger feet with shorter toes. Their big toe shifted into a straight position, aligned with the other toes. This made the foot better for pushing off the ground with each step. The arch in their feet formed slowly over time, acting like a natural spring to absorb shock and make walking more comfortable. These small changes added up, turning the foot into a powerful tool for long-distance travel. Balance also improved in quiet but important ways. The spine formed gentle curves that helped distribute weight evenly. The muscles of the lower back strengthened to support an upright posture. The position of the head shifted so that the skull sat directly above the spine instead of leaning forward. This allowed early hominins to look ahead while walking instead of constantly looking down. With this improved balance, they could move with calm stability through open spaces. But why did walking on two legs become so important? One reason was the need to travel. As forests shrank and food sources changed, early hominins had to move longer distances to survive. Two-legged walking gave them an advantage. It allowed them to explore new areas without using too much energy. It also made them better at carrying food or tools. With their hands free, they could transport fruit, roots, or even young ones over longer distances. This freedom to carry things became a major benefit that shaped their daily lives. Another reason was vision. In tall grasses, moving upright allowed hominins to see over the landscape. They could spot predators from far away or find safe paths across open ground. Being able to see danger early increased their chances of survival. It also helped them stay connected to their group, because they could keep track of others even in uneven terrain. Temperature also played a surprising role. In open grasslands, the sun was strong. When an animal walks on all fours, most of its body faces the direct heat. But when standing upright, only the top of the head takes full sunlight. This kept early hominins cooler during the hottest parts of the day. Standing upright also exposed more of their body to moving air, helping them stay comfortable in warm climates. This simple cooling effect made bipedalism even more beneficial. As early hominins walked more often, they roamed farther across the grasslands. These journeys were calm, steady, and unhurried. They moved in groups, watching each other and the world around them. They walked from tree to tree, stopping to gather food or rest in the shade. Their new way of moving opened up a wider world. They followed rivers, crossed open plains, and explored woodlands that earlier primates would have avoided. Walking on two legs gave them freedom to expand their territory and discover new resources. Their social lives also changed. Spending more time on the ground meant they stayed closer together. Moving as a group kept them safer. It also strengthened bonds between members. A mother could carry her child easily. Adults could transport food to share with others. These small acts built trust and cooperation. Over time, this cooperation became one of the strongest features of early human life. As their confidence in upright walking grew, their bodies continued to adjust. Their hands became more skilled as they were no longer needed for walking. They used them for picking, holding, and exploring. Their minds grew more curious as they encountered new places. Every step on the grasslands offered new experiences and quiet lessons. These gentle movements across the land shaped the early stages of human intelligence. The world they walked through was full of sounds, the wind moving through tall grass, distant calls of animals, soft steps of the group moving together. These early hominins were careful observers. They noticed patterns in nature, followed safe routes, and remembered where food could be found. Walking upright helped them notice more and think more. It encouraged awareness, patience, and planning. With each generation, the ability to walk upright became more refined. It slowly turned from a rare behavior into the main way of traveling. This simple skill opened the path to everything humans later achieved. Without upright walking, early hominins would not have been able to explore wide landscapes, use tools effectively, or build the social connections that supported their survival. When you imagine those first upright walkers, picture small groups moving calmly across a warm field, pausing to look around, standing tall in the gentle light. Their steps may have been simple, but they carried the early beginnings of the human journey. Through quiet changes in hips, legs, feet, and balance, they prepared the way for all who would come after them, shaping the foundations of the human body and the human world. Imagine a world far quieter than ours, where the wind moved softly through tall grass, and the sky seemed bigger than anything you could imagine. In this peaceful place lived some of the earliest ancestors of humans, the beings we now call Australopithecus. They lived millions of years ago, long before cities, machines, or even simple tools. Their lives were simple, but full of small challenges and discoveries that slowly shaped the future of humanity. As you picture them, let your mind slow down, just like the calm rhythm of their world. These early ancestors were not tall like modern humans. Most of them stood only about as high as a young teenager, and their bodies were a mix of familiar and unfamiliar features. They walked on two legs, but they still had long arms and curved fingers that helped them climb trees with ease. If you saw one from far away, you might think they looked almost human, But when you came closer, you would notice their faces were shaped differently, with a smaller forehead and a jaw that was a little more forward. Their brains were much smaller than ours, but they were growing slowly bit by bit, with each passing generation. Something important was happening inside them, even if it could not be seen from the outside. Every day for them was a simple routine, shaped by the rising and setting of the sun. When dawn came, they woke up in the safety of trees or hidden spots on the ground. They stayed close to their group, because being alone in the wild could be dangerous. Their first task was finding food. They ate fruits, roots, leaves, and sometimes insects. Their world did not have cooked food or tools to make life easier. Everything they ate came straight from the earth around them. And yet, every new plant they found or every new path they followed added just a little more knowledge to their minds, helping their brains grow and their skills improve. They walked slowly across open grasslands, always listening for danger. Their ears were sharp, and their eyes scanned the land for predators like big cats or hyenas. Even though they were small, they were clever. They knew how to spot fresh fruit trees, where to find clean water, and which places were safe to rest. They moved together, watching over their young and teaching them by example. There were no spoken words like ours, but they communicated with simple sounds, gestures, and expressions. A warning call could send the whole group climbing into trees within seconds. Their hands were one of their most important tools. Even though they had no modern tools, their fingers could peel fruit, dig up roots, and pick through plants to find hidden bugs. Sometimes, they might pick up a stick to pull something closer or use a stone to crack open a tough shell. These small actions were the first tiny steps toward the tool-making that would come much later in human history. They did not realize they were starting something big. To them, it was just part of their day. During the warm hours of the afternoon, the group often found a shady spot to rest. The world around them buzzed with insects, chirping birds, and rustling grass. In these quiet moments, you can imagine the early ancestors sitting close to one another, grooming each other's fur to remove dirt or bugs. This was more than just cleaning. It helped them bond, made them feel safe, and created trust within the group. These small acts of care were one of the reasons they were able to survive for so long. Their simple kindness helped shape the future of human relationships. As they rested, the younger ones played nearby. Their games were not like modern games, but the joy was the same. They chased each other, climbed small trees, and explored the ground for new things. These playful moments helped them learn how to move, how to balance, and how to stay aware of their surroundings. Every jump, every climb, every curious peek behind a rock helped their brains grow a little more. Their minds were slowly expanding, not in a sudden leap, but in tiny steps that continued across thousands of years. It was a quiet and steady journey toward the thinking power humans have today. When the sun began to lower, the group started moving again. They searched for more food before the day ended, always watching the shadows on the ground. Evenings could be dangerous, so they made sure to stay alert. They might gather near a tall tree where they planned to sleep. Some would climb up high, where predators could not easily reach them. Others stayed low, hidden in thick branches or tall grass. The night sky above them glowed with stars, untouched by city lights. The air was cooler and the world slowed to a peaceful hush. Before falling asleep, they often stayed close together. Being near one another gave them warmth and comfort. They didn't have strong language, but they had a deep understanding of the feelings inside their group. If one member was scared, the others noticed. If a young one cried, someone would move closer to keep them calm. These quiet connections slowly built the foundation of human social life. Without saying a word, they learned empathy, protection, and care. All around them, the world was changing. The grasslands were spreading, trees were thinning, and the climate was shifting. Their bodies and minds were adjusting too. Walking on two legs became easier. Their brains grew slightly larger with each generation. Their hands became more skilled. Their senses became sharper. They did not understand evolution, but they lived it every day. And each small change in their lives helped shape the humans who would come millions of years later. Imagine them now, resting under a sky full of stars, their small bodies curled safely in the branches of a tree. The night wind moves through the leaves, and somewhere in the distance, an animal cries out. But the group stays peaceful. They survived another day. Their world was simple, but every moment in it carried the quiet beginnings of something much bigger. These ancestors did not know they were starting the long story of humanity. They simply lived, learned, cared, and grew. And in doing so, they opened the path that all humans walk today. Their lives remind us that even the smallest steps can shape the future. The slow growth of their brains, the simple routines of their day, and their gentle connections with one another all became the roots of human life. And as you imagine their calm world, drifting across wide grasslands and resting in cool shade, you may feel your own mind slow down. Their story moves softly, like a warm wind across ancient earth, carrying the quiet beginning of everything we know now. Imagine a quiet world long before cities, machines, and technology. A world where early humans were just beginning to take their next big step. This time was the rise of the genus Homo, a period when life slowly changed in ways that shaped everything humans would become. If you close your eyes for a moment, you can almost picture the soft sound of wind moving across open land, carrying the faint echoes of footsteps from the first humans who walked this earth. These early humans looked different from the ancestors who came before them. Their bodies were stronger, their legs were built for longer walks, and their minds held a spark of new ideas. Something was growing inside their brains, something that made them curious and more aware of the world around them. This gentle rise of intelligence was one of the most important shifts in human history. And yet, it happened so quietly, so slowly, that no one at the time would have noticed. One of the biggest changes during this time was the appearance of stone tools. Before this, hands alone had to pull, break, or open things. But now, early humans discovered that certain stones could be shaped into sharp edges. A single sharp stone could cut meat, slice plants, and even help break open bones to reach the rich marrow inside. Imagine one of them holding a stone, carefully striking it with another rock, watching small flakes fall away until the tool took shape. It was simple, but it was powerful. For the first time, they were not just reacting to the world, they were changing it. These tools changed how they found food. Before tools, they mostly gathered fruits, roots, and small things they could pick with their hands. But now they could take part in hunting in a new way. They did not chase animals in fast sprints. Instead, they used patience, teamwork, and long walks to follow animals over far distances. Their bodies grew stronger to support this new lifestyle. Their chests expanded, their legs became longer, and their muscles adapted for endurance. They were not the fastest hunters, but they became some of the best long-distance walkers nature had ever created. This was a quiet kind of strength, a slow and steady power. Hunting also taught them something even more important: cooperation. Alone, one human could not take down a large animal or protect themselves from danger. But together they could create plans, share food, and watch over one another. Cooperation became a key part of survival. If one person found food, they shared it. If someone was hurt, others helped them. This simple habit of working together was the start of the deep social bonds humans still rely on today. Even though their language was not like ours, they communicated through simple sounds, gestures, and shared actions. Their days had a calm rhythm, shaped by teamwork and trust. As they worked together and used tools, their brains slowly continued to grow. Early Homo species did not have large brains like modern humans, but they were growing at a steady pace. With each new challenge, their thinking skills became a little stronger. They learned to remember places where water could be found. They learned to watch animal tracks and understand patterns. They learned how to break stones in better ways and use tools more effectively. Every small idea added to the next, building a foundation for future generations. Life for them was not rushed. Every day had a peaceful pattern. When the sun rose, the group would move together through the land. They searched for food, looked for safe places, and stayed alert for danger. Their eyes scanned the ground for plants, tracks, or useful stones. Their hands felt the textures of rocks and leaves, learning which ones had value. Their world was full of quiet lessons, all taught by nature itself. When they rested, they sat near each other, sometimes close enough to touch. Grooming each other's hair became a way to bond, just like earlier ancestors had done. These gentle actions helped reduce stress and build trust. A calm feeling settled over the group as they worked together, shared warmth, and protected each other from threats. Their world may have been harsh, but their connections brought comfort. As the day went on, they explored new areas. They followed rivers, crossed open plains, and stepped through forests. They moved slowly, always aware of their surroundings, always learning. Their minds paid attention to everything: the noise of birds, the smell of plants, the direction of the wind. Even though they didn't know it, they were becoming more observant and more intelligent with every passing generation. One of the most interesting parts of their life was how they used fire when they eventually learned to control it. At first, fire came from natural causes like lightning or volcanic activity. Slowly, early humans began to understand that fire could keep them warm, protect them at night, and help them cook food. Cooked food was easier to chew and easier to digest, giving their bodies more energy. This energy supported the slow growth of their brains, helping them become even more capable. Sitting around a fire became one of their calmest moments, a warm and safe circle in the middle of the dark night. Their nights were peaceful most of the time. As the sun set, they stayed close together in sheltered areas or near their small fires. The stars above them glowed bright, untouched by lights or noise. They listened to the soft sounds of the night: crickets, rustling grass, and distant calls of animals. In this quiet world, their minds settled, and they slept with the comfort of their group nearby. The rise of Homo was not about sudden changes. It was about small steps happening again and again over thousands of years. A new tool here, a stronger body there, a little more cooperation, a slightly bigger brain. These tiny changes created a powerful path toward the future. They built the early roots of human intelligence, creativity, and community. Each quiet discovery added a new thread to the story of humanity. Think about them now, walking, learning, sharing food, shaping stones, and resting under the sky. Their world was simple, but every action had meaning. Their tools were basic, but they represented the beginning of human creativity. Their cooperation was gentle, but it shaped the start of human society. Their survival was peaceful, shaped by observation, patience, and teamwork. Even though they lived long ago, these early humans set the stage for everything that came after them. They did not rush, and they did not know what the future would hold. They simply lived each day, exploring their world and discovering small things that slowly transformed the course of history. Their quiet strength and growing minds formed the early heartbeat of the human story. And as you imagine them moving across ancient lands, with the soft wind touching their faces and the calm rhythm of their footsteps, you may feel the peaceful pace of their world settling gently into your thoughts. Their journey reminds us that great changes often begin softly, one small step, one simple idea, one shared moment at a time. Imagine a quiet evening long ago, before cities, before electricity, when the world was open and wild. Early humans had discovered something that would change life forever: fire. At first, fire was rare. It came from lightning strikes, volcanic eruptions, or natural sparks. But slowly, humans learned to keep it alive, to carry it carefully from one place to another. Fire became more than just light. It became warmth, safety, and a gathering point for early communities. Before fire, humans ate mostly raw foods: roots, fruits, nuts, and occasionally meat they could tear apart with their hands. Raw food was hard to chew and often difficult to digest. But fire made a gentle, miraculous change. When they cooked meat, it became soft and tender. Roots and tubers could be softened and eaten with less effort. The energy in their food increased, and with it, their bodies and minds slowly grew stronger. Cooking did more than feed them. It gave their brains the fuel to think more, plan more, and notice more. Their minds began to expand quietly, building the foundation for future intelligence. Imagine them sitting in small groups, the fire flickering in the dark, throwing soft shadows across their faces. The warmth of the flames created a calm, comforting space. It allowed them to relax after the day's wandering and foraging. They could gather close together without shivering in the night air. The fire offered protection, too. Predators kept their distance, and the glow of the flames marked a safe place in a dark, unfamiliar world. As they sat around fire, communication began to change. Before fire, humans had limited ways to share ideas. They used gestures, expressions, and sounds. But now, with the light stretching into the night, they could sit for hours talking quietly, telling stories, or pointing out things in the world. The fire extended their day. They could share knowledge, warn each other about dangers, or remember where food sources were located. Fire allowed a new rhythm of life, one that blended work with quiet reflection. These evenings were slow and peaceful. You can almost feel the soft crackle of flames, the smell of burning wood, and the gentle warmth on their skin. Everyone could see each other's faces, notice small expressions, and understand feelings more clearly. Cooperation and social bonds grew in these moments. Humans were no longer just surviving individually. They were living together, learning together, and slowly shaping a community. This simple glow from a controlled fire was one of the first steps toward complex social life. Fire also influenced the way early humans thought about food. Before, food was something that had to be found and eaten immediately. With fire, some foods could be prepared, shared, or stored for a while. They could roast a tuber or a piece of meat, then eat it later when they were hungry. This gentle change introduced planning. They learned patience. They learned that a meal could last, that preparation could give more energy over time, and that careful attention to resources was wise. Even these small steps were powerful for survival. The nights around fire were not just about eating. They were about learning and imagination. When the flames danced, shadows moved across the ground and walls of caves. Young humans may have watched the shapes flicker, seeing animals, shapes, or even the beginnings of imagination in their minds. Elders may have told simple stories about the day, about places they had seen, or about dangers to avoid. These soft tales, told in the warmth of the firelight, helped preserve knowledge and teach the young. Knowledge no longer lived only in actions. It began to live in words, in shared understanding, and in memory. The fire also allowed humans to explore new environments. Nights could be less frightening because the flames offered light and security. Groups could move through open areas or sleep in semi-exposed spaces while keeping predators at bay. Fire became a companion, a tool, and a gentle teacher. It reminded humans that their world was not entirely dark, that they could create safety and comfort in the wild. Food cooked by fire became softer, safer, and more nutritious. It allowed them to digest more efficiently, giving more energy for their bodies and brains. Over time, brains expanded slowly and thinking became more complex. They could focus longer, notice details others might miss, and develop memory. Every meal prepared over fire was a small step toward a more intelligent species. Energy from cooked food was quiet power fueling curiosity, observation, and cooperation. Fire also shaped social behavior. Sitting together, humans learned to take turns, to share, and to respect one another. They could plan hunts for the next day, discuss paths to water, or comfort someone who was tired or hurt. The glow of fire became a meeting place, a calm center of life, a way to build trust without words. The connection formed around fire was not loud or aggressive. It was soft, enduring, and invisible in its strength. Imagine a young child watching the flames for the first time. Eyes wide, quiet awe in their face. The firelight flickers, showing their parent's face close by, the shadow of a sibling stretching across the ground. They learn by watching, by listening, by feeling the warmth. This is early education, silent and gentle, passed from one generation to the next. Every night around fire built skills and knowledge for the future. Even fire itself had lessons. Humans learned how to control it, how to feed it, and how to avoid letting it burn too fiercely. They learned patience as small sparks were coaxed into flames, and they learned respect as fire could give warmth or bring danger. These early lessons were a form of slow, natural intelligence. Humans discovered that with careful attention, they could shape their world, create comfort, and survive in ways they never could before. As the night grew darker, the fire glowed softly, marking a circle of calm in a vast, wild world. The group rested, leaning close to the warmth, safe together. The sound of crackling embers was peaceful, almost hypnotic. Every face in the circle reflected soft shadows, showing emotions and awareness. Humans were learning, sharing, thinking, and dreaming, all under the same gentle light. This slow rise of intelligence, shaped by fire and shared meals, was a turning point. It was not dramatic or loud. It was a quiet transformation, happening one calm evening at a time, one careful meal, one shared story. Every flicker of flame was a teacher. Every cooked meal was a gift. Every night spent together strengthened bonds and nurtured minds. Over generations, these small, gentle changes added up. Humans learned to use fire as a tool for warmth, protection, and cooking. Their brains grew slowly, their thinking became more complex, and their social lives became richer. Fire shaped human life in subtle ways, changing the rhythm of days and nights, teaching patience, cooperation, and planning. As you picture those early evenings, sitting quietly around the fire, notice the calm and steady pace of their lives. The soft warmth, the gentle light, the slow unfolding of knowledge. These moments are the roots of intelligence, creativity, and connection. Fire was more than a tool, it was a companion that helped early humans become who they are today. And so, in the quiet glow of the flames, life carried on gently. Small steps, soft lessons, and shared warmth shaped the rise of human minds. Each ember was a spark of thought, each meal a quiet step toward understanding, each night a calm story of survival, learning, and connection. Fire, food, and human curiosity moved together in harmony, quietly lighting the path of evolution. Long ago, humans lived mostly in one part of the world, in the warm forests and grasslands of Africa. Life was quiet and slow, guided by the sun, the seasons, and the natural rhythm of the land. But over time, small groups of humans began to move. Some wandered for new food, some followed water, and some explored unfamiliar lands. These gentle journeys were the beginning of humans spreading across Africa, each group adapting to the place they called home. As humans moved, the land around them changed in ways they had to respond to. In some areas, the sun shone fiercely and there were few trees. In other places, rivers flowed through lush forests. Mountains rose in the distance, and deserts stretched across the horizon. Each landscape presented challenges and quiet lessons. Humans who could handle heat, who could travel long distances, and who could find water were more likely to thrive. Slowly, these traits became part of the people living in each area. Skin changed over generations in response to sunlight. In regions with strong sunlight, darker skin helped protect against harmful rays while still allowing the body to make vitamin D. In shaded forests or areas with less sunlight, lighter skin allowed the body to absorb more sunlight for energy and health. These changes happened slowly, almost imperceptibly, as the people lived day by day, hunt by hunt, and sun by sun. Skin became a quiet reflection of the land, shaped gently by the environment. Endurance also became important. In open grasslands, humans needed to travel far to find food and water. Their bodies adapted to long, steady movement. Legs grew stronger, hearts became more efficient, and stamina quietly increased. Walking, running, and carrying food over long distances became easier over generations. These adaptations were not sudden or dramatic. They were soft, calm, and patient, appearing almost as whispers in the body over many years. Different landscapes also encouraged different ways of living. People in forests relied more on climbing and gathering fruit. Those in open plains learned to track animals and plan long journeys. Groups near rivers depended on fishing and collecting plants from the banks. Each lifestyle shaped the body and mind in subtle ways. Muscles developed for climbing, running, or lifting. Eyes learned to notice movement or details in the shadows. Hands became skillful at crafting tools or handling delicate objects. The quiet influence of daily life gradually shaped humans in harmony with their surroundings. Even diets influenced the way bodies changed. Some groups ate more meat from hunting. Others ate fruits, roots, and nuts. The balance of foods affected teeth, jaw strength, and digestion. Cooking and fire continued to play a role, softening food and making energy more available. As a result, humans could grow stronger and think more clearly, quietly building the mental tools needed for survival and cooperation. Small cultural habits also left marks on the body and mind. Groups learned to share knowledge about which plants were safe to eat, how to track animals, and how to find water. They learned which paths through the forest were safest, which rocks made the best tools, and how to move quietly through grasslands without being noticed. Over time, these habits shaped intelligence, memory, and observation skills. The way people lived was gently writing itself into the human body and mind. Humans were not alone in Africa. They shared the land with other animals, some of which they hunted, some which they avoided. They learned to read the signs of the land, the footprints in the sand, the calls of birds, the tracks of predators. Observing animals and nature slowly sharpened their senses, their ability to predict what might happen next, and their patience. Each quiet day added more skill, more awareness, and more adaptability. Water sources became gathering points. Small groups learned to live near rivers and lakes, where food and drink were more reliable. These safe, quiet places allowed communities to grow slowly, offering time to teach children, to craft tools, and to share stories. The gentle rhythm of life near water shaped social bonds and cooperation. Humans learned to work together in calm, steady ways, quietly building the first hints of complex societies. Over time, small differences appeared between populations. People who lived in hot, dry deserts became leaner, with bodies suited for traveling long distances without overheating. People in cooler or shaded areas developed slightly different proportions, suited for conserving warmth or moving through forests. These differences were subtle, gentle, and natural. They were not sudden changes but quiet reflections of life in different corners of the same continent. Communication also evolved quietly. With long journeys and new environments, humans needed to share information about food, water, and safety. Simple words, gestures, and sounds became more precise. Groups could warn each other about dangers, guide children, or describe places they had seen. Language may have been soft at first, full of whispers and short calls, but over time it grew more structured. This gentle evolution of communication helped humans survive, learn, and explore even farther. The mind expanded alongside the body. Observation, memory, and planning became essential skills. People who remembered which plants were edible, which paths were safe, and when animals would appear had an advantage. Over generations, these mental skills became more refined, quietly shaping the intelligence that humans are known for today. Early brains adapted to the demands of a changing land, and every quiet step of thinking was part of evolution in action. Life was slow and rhythmic. The sun rose, humans hunted or gathered, they rested near water or fire, shared knowledge and slept. Seasons changed, food availability shifted, and humans moved accordingly. The pace of life was gentle, almost meditative, and it was during this rhythm that humans adapted to their environments, becoming different in subtle ways while still part of the same lineage. The variety of landscapes across Africa became a teacher. Mountains, forests, rivers, savannas, and deserts each offered lessons in survival, endurance, and adaptation. Humans learned to read the land and respond gently to its challenges. Over thousands of years, these quiet lessons shaped the body, mind, and habits of each population. Humans became uniquely suited to their surroundings without knowing it, slowly building diversity and resilience. Even small habits, like walking in the heat of the day or resting in shade, contributed to endurance and energy conservation. Humans learned to pace themselves, to move quietly, and to notice small details in the environment. These soft behaviors strengthened the body and mind in subtle ways. Over time, generations accumulated these advantages without noticing, shaping humans into the forms that could survive in different corners of Africa. By the time thousands of years had passed, humans were no longer the same across all of Africa. They had adapted to deserts, forests, rivers, and open plains. Their bodies and minds reflected the quiet lessons of the land. They had learned endurance, cleverness, and subtle ways to survive. These gentle changes were not dramatic or visible overnight, but were profound in shaping the path of human evolution. And so, humans continue to explore, to move, to adapt, and to live in harmony with the land. Every footstep across the savanna, Every rest under a tree, every shared meal and whispered story contributed to the quiet unfolding of human evolution. Africa, in its variety and calmness, became the cradle where humans learned the slow, gentle lessons that would carry them into the future. After thousands of years in Africa, small groups of humans began to move beyond their familiar lands. They walked slowly, step by step, leaving behind the forests, rivers, and grasslands they had always known. The world beyond was different. The air could be cooler, the days shorter, and the nights longer. Mountains rose like silent guardians, and vast plains stretched farther than the eye could see. Every step into these new lands was a gentle challenge, teaching humans how to adapt to climates and landscapes they had never encountered before. Walking into colder regions required new ways of living. Humans began to notice the importance of warmth. Simple changes, like seeking shelter in caves or under trees, gathering dry leaves and branches for fire, and wearing animal skins, helped them survive. Over generations, their bodies adjusted as well. Some developed stockier builds that kept them warmer in cold winds. Hands and feet learned to stay nimble even in freezing temperatures. These slow adaptations were quiet and unnoticeable at first, but they mattered deeply in survival. Mountains were another teacher. Climbing higher meant facing thin air, steep slopes, and hidden dangers. Humans learned to move carefully, balancing their weight and pacing their steps. Their muscles grew strong for climbing and walking long distances. Eyes became sharper for spotting paths and watching for predators. Minds also grew more alert, learning to plan routes and remember landmarks. Mountains taught patience, focus, and endurance, shaping humans both physically and mentally in gentle, quiet ways. Rivers and lakes were vital as humans explored new lands. Fresh water meant safety, food, and rest. People learned which fish to catch, which plants could be eaten, and where to drink without danger. Settling near water allowed communities to pause, observe, and learn the rhythms of their surroundings. Life became a quiet meditation on survival, each day teaching new lessons about patience, cooperation, and the gentle art of living with nature. Early humans also met different plants and animals as they traveled. Some animals could be hunted, some avoided, and some observed quietly to learn habits. Humans learned to read the signs of the land. Broken branches might indicate a predator, footprints showed which way herds had moved, and changes in wind or clouds predicted weather. Observing carefully, humans became patient and attentive, skills that would shape both the body and the mind for generations. Walking across continents, humans also learned the value of cooperation. Sharing knowledge about where to find food, how to make fire, and where to rest became vital. Simple gestures, calls, and early language helped groups survive together. These quiet social skills were as important as physical strength. Over time, cooperation and communication became part of the human pattern, guiding migrations across deserts, forests, and mountains with a calm, steady rhythm. Climates shaped humans in ways that were subtle but important. In cold regions, bodies adapted to retain heat, with wider chests and shorter limbs. In warmer areas, leaner builds helped the body release heat efficiently. Skin color adjusted slowly over generations to balance sun exposure and vitamin D production. Hair, body fat, and sweat patterns all responded to new climates in ways that were calm, patient, and deliberate over time. These changes were not dramatic but accumulated quietly, shaping populations to survive and thrive in every corner of the earth. Food also influenced changes in the body. In snowy regions, hunting large animals like mammoths required strength and teamwork. In forests, Gathering fruits, nuts, and small animals demanded patience, skill, and keen observation. Communities that mastered both hunting and gathering slowly became more resilient. Fire continued to play a gentle role, cooking food, keeping warmth, and gathering people together. These small routines shaped the human body and mind, supporting the slow growth of intelligence and social skill. Mountains, deserts, forests, and plains each required different movements. Climbing steep paths, walking long distances, running to catch animals, or sneaking quietly through underbrush all trained humans in subtle ways. Muscles strengthened, joints became more flexible, and endurance increased. Early humans did not notice these changes immediately, but over generations, their bodies became finely tuned instruments for survival. Every quiet step, every careful climb, and every long walk shaped them further. Humans also adapted to daylight and night in new ways. In snowy regions, the sun rose late and set early. In forests, thick canopies created shadows all day. Humans learned to be active at the right times, finding food, water, and safety when it was best. Their eyes adjusted to light and darkness, noticing movement even in dim shadows. The rhythm of daily life shaped perception, awareness, and timing in ways that were subtle but powerful. Even small discoveries mattered. Learning that certain plants could prevent sickness, that certain stones made the best tools, or that smoke could keep predators away were quiet lessons that changed life. Humans stored this knowledge in memory and passed it to others. The gentle transfer of knowledge became a new form of evolution, one that was not written in bones but in minds and actions. Meeting new landscapes also brought new challenges. Winds could be harsh, rains could flood valleys, and animals could be dangerous. Humans learned patience and timing. They learned to wait for the right moment to cross rivers, climb mountains, or follow migrating herds. These lessons, repeated quietly over generations, shaped both strategy and intelligence. Every cautious step added to the calm, careful progression of evolution. With each new region, humans became more diverse. Populations in cold areas grew thicker hair and more body fat. Those in deserts became leaner and faster. Forest dwellers developed keen eyesight and precise hand movements. Each adaptation was a quiet story of life responding to its surroundings, a gentle testament to the patience and resilience of humans. Fire remained a constant companion. In new lands, evenings around the fire were times of learning, sharing, and resting. Humans exchanged knowledge about the new plants, animals, and paths they encountered. Fire offered warmth, light, and protection from predators. Around these flames, humans learned patience, observation, and careful planning, all while the body adapted to the changing world outside the circle of light. Over generations, humans became explorers of continents. Africa was no longer the only home. Step by step, mountain by mountain, river by river, humans moved quietly, observing, learning, and adapting. Each population carried the lessons of survival, endurance, and cooperation. Each body and mind reflected the gentle, patient process of evolution as humans spread across the earth. And so humans continued their calm journey across the world. Mountains taught endurance, cold taught patience, rivers taught observation, and forests taught skill. Each quiet lesson shaped humans in subtle ways. The slow, careful exploration of new lands became a gentle story of adaptation and survival. With every step, humans learned more about the land, themselves, and the quiet art of living in harmony with the world around them. As humans spread across continents, they did not walk alone. In many regions, other human species were already living quietly, building their lives and adapting to the land around them. Neanderthals walked the cold plains of Europe, with strong bodies, thick bones, and wide faces that held warmth against the icy winds. They were skilled hunters, moving in small groups, tracking animals, and carefully observing their surroundings. Their lives were quiet but full of purpose, each day spent finding food, seeking shelter, and keeping their families safe. At the same time, in Asia, Denisovans lived hidden in caves, leaving only small traces of bones and teeth for us to discover. They were mysterious, their lives mostly unknown, yet their DNA whispers to us today. In faraway islands, tiny humans called Homo floresiensis, sometimes called hobbits, lived quietly in forests. They were small in size but clever, using simple tools to catch food and navigate their lush, green homes. All these human species lived in different worlds, yet they were part of the same wide human story, connected across time by shared ancestry and quiet survival. When our ancestors met these humans, the encounters were often gentle, curious, and cautious. Some groups may have watched each other from a distance, learning patterns of movement, tools, and food sources. In some cases, the encounters led to sharing knowledge, and in rare instances, to blending together. Neanderthals and early Homo sapiens met in Europe and the Middle East, leaving traces in our DNA that survive today. Even a small touch of shared genes helped humans adapt to new climates, resist certain illnesses, and develop quietly into the people we are now. The intermingling of species was not always visible in bones or fossils. Often it was recorded in our genes, hidden in small sequences of DNA that survived hundreds of generations. These genetic gifts included ways to respond to cold, fight off infections, and even influence the immune system. While the Neanderthals eventually disappeared from the fossil record, parts of them live quietly in modern humans. This is a gentle reminder that evolution is not a straight path but a web of connections, with many branches meeting and blending over time. Denisovans, though more mysterious, also left their mark. Some modern humans in Asia and Oceania carry small portions of Denisovan DNA, a quiet inheritance from encounters long ago. These genetic fragments help people adapt to high altitudes, resist infections, and perhaps even shape certain physical traits. Each tiny piece of DNA tells a story of contact, survival, and shared experience. Though we may never know the full details of their lives, their influence continues softly in us. The hobbits of Flores were a different story. Small in size with tiny bodies, they were well suited to island life. Dense forests, limited food sources, and isolated surroundings shaped them uniquely. They may not have met Homo sapiens often, but their existence reminds us that human diversity was once far wider than it is today. Different forms of humans adapted quietly to their worlds, each one a testament to the patient, careful process of survival and evolution. Living alongside other human species also shaped culture and behavior in subtle ways. Early humans observed the techniques of others, copying tools, learning hunting strategies, and perhaps even sharing fire or shelter. Communities that learned from neighbors had small advantages, surviving longer, traveling farther, and exploring new lands. These soft lessons, passed quietly from one generation to the next, created gentle changes in both mind and body, guiding humans slowly toward the complex societies we know today. Our ancestors' interactions were shaped by curiosity and caution. Meeting someone who looked similar but different required careful observation. Facial features, movements, and voices could be familiar yet strange. Learning to coexist, avoid conflict, and share resources was part of the survival story. This quiet negotiation, repeated over generations, shaped human psychology and social patterns, teaching empathy, awareness, and subtle cooperation. Even the tools humans carried were influenced by these interactions. Stone axes, flint knives, and simple digging sticks were observed and adapted, refined from lessons learned by watching others. These small improvements, passed along gently, became part of the human toolkit. The quiet evolution of technology mirrored the evolution of humans themselves, building slowly, carefully, and purposefully without rush. Genes, too, recorded these encounters. We carry tiny signatures of Neanderthals and Denisovans in our bodies today. These are not visible, but they influence immune systems, skin, hair, and even certain physiological responses. Evolution sometimes acts like a quiet editor, keeping helpful traits and letting others fade. Every cell in our body may hold echoes of these other humans, a soft reminder of the long journey we shared together. Interactions with other species also helped humans survive in challenging environments. Cold climates, new predators, and unfamiliar plants required innovation. Observing the techniques of Neanderthals or Denisovans could offer guidance in building shelters, finding food, or protecting families. In these quiet ways, knowledge flowed between species, shaping life slowly, softly, and steadily. Life with other humans was not just about survival. It shaped identity and belonging. Being part of a group, understanding social cues, and navigating relationships became more important as humans traveled farther. Shared experience with neighbors, whether the same species or a different one, helped build social intelligence, empathy, and collaboration. These traits, subtle and quiet, guided the growth of culture, language, and community over thousands of years. We may never know exactly how these encounters felt. Did they spark fear, curiosity, or friendship? Did people exchange stories, share warmth, or simply watch from a distance? The fossil record is quiet, leaving only hints of interaction. Yet, the DNA inside modern humans whispers softly about these past connections, preserving their influence through countless generations. Every time you move, think, or breathe, you carry traces of these ancient interactions. Genes inherited from Neanderthals, Denisovans, and other humans influence health, adaptation, and sometimes even behavior. Life is a tapestry, woven from many threads that stretch across time and space. Each thread is soft and quiet, but contributes to the larger picture of who we are. The story of living with other human species is also a story of patience. Humans did not conquer or erase quietly. The blending of traits, skills, and survival strategies happened slowly, gently, over thousands of years. Every encounter shaped evolution in soft, often invisible ways. It is a reminder that evolution is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is a quiet hand guiding life toward new possibilities. And so, humans continued their calm journey across the planet, carrying with them the echoes of other species. Each step, each encounter, each shared gene contributed to the tapestry of human life. The influence of Neanderthals, Denisovans, and even the little hobbits of Flores reminds us that evolution is a shared story, gentle and patient, full of quiet lessons about survival, adaptation, and connection. As we think about our ancestors today, it is soothing to imagine these meetings in calm forests, snowy valleys, and island jungles. Small groups sitting near fire, observing, learning, and quietly influencing each other's lives. Their interactions were gentle, their lessons lasting, shaping the humans who walked the earth afterward. Evolution moved softly, yet powerfully, carrying humans forward into new worlds while keeping traces of others alive inside us, hidden in every cell, every thought, and every action. As humans continued to explore the world, their minds began to change in quiet but remarkable ways. Life was no longer just about survival. It started to include imagination, creativity, and the sharing of ideas. Small groups of humans, living together in forests, grasslands, and valleys, began to notice patterns in the world around them. They observed the movements of animals, the changing seasons, and the flow of rivers. Slowly, these observations turned into shared knowledge, passed from one person to another. This gentle growth of understanding laid the foundation for language, culture, and creativity. Language began as a soft, quiet tool for connection. Early humans used simple sounds, gestures, and expressions to communicate. A warning about a predator, a direction toward water, or a description of a ripe fruit could be shared with others. Over time, these simple signals became more structured. Words formed. Sentences grew. With language came the ability to explain, plan, and imagine. Humans could now share thoughts about things that were not immediately present. They could warn about danger ahead, describe dreams, or tell stories about the past. Language became a gentle bridge between minds, allowing ideas to flow and communities to grow. Alongside language, humans began to express themselves through art. Small, careful marks on stone, ochre on cave walls, or carvings in wood reflected the quiet curiosity of the mind. These early artworks were not just decoration. They were a way to understand the world and each other. Images of animals, human figures, and abstract patterns appeared, teaching lessons, sharing beliefs, or simply celebrating life. Art encouraged observation, memory, and imagination. When early humans painted a bison on a wall or carved a figure from bone, they were practicing thought, reflection, and planning, all at a gentle, thoughtful pace. The growth of culture followed naturally from these developments. Culture is the quiet collection of habits, beliefs, and knowledge that humans pass down through generations. Cooking methods, ways to build shelters, and strategies for hunting were all part of culture. Each innovation, no matter how small, was shared and repeated, becoming part of the human experience. A group that discovered a better way to catch fish or preserve food quietly shared that knowledge, helping the community survive and thrive. In this way, culture was a soft thread weaving humans together, linking minds across time and space. Cooperation expanded as humans learned to work together in more complex ways. Early hunting, for instance, was rarely done alone. Groups coordinated silently, developing strategies to corner animals, trap them, or chase them over long distances. Sharing food became common, creating bonds of trust and dependence. Communities that learned to cooperate effectively had a quiet advantage. They could survive in harsher climates, travel farther, and protect each other against threats. Cooperation was not forced. It was a soft, natural consequence of living together and learning from one another. It allowed humans to achieve more than any individual could, quietly shaping the growth of societies. Creativity and imagination also grew slowly but steadily. Humans began experimenting with new tools, designs, and techniques. A sharper flint knife, a deeper storage pit, or a better fishing spear reflected careful observation and trial and error. These small improvements were shared, refined, and passed on. Each generation added something new, quietly building on the work of those who came before. In this way, human creativity became cumulative. One idea led to another, and over thousands of years, simple innovations turned into complex tools, shelters, and eventually entire ways of life. Even games and play contributed to this quiet growth. Children mimicked adults, practicing hunting, gathering, and tool use through play. These small, safe experiments taught skills, coordination, and problem solving. Play encouraged imagination and social learning, helping young humans prepare for adult life. It was a gentle way for knowledge, creativity, and culture to spread without force or stress. In these calm moments, humans learned the patterns of life, the strengths of their bodies, and the power of their minds. The gentle growth of the human mind was also reflected in rituals and traditions. Early humans began to mark events such as births, deaths, and seasonal changes. They observed the cycles of nature, the migration of animals, and the phases of the moon. Simple ceremonies, performed quietly and repeatedly, created a sense of connection, meaning, and continuity. These rituals shaped human consciousness, teaching patience, observation, and reflection. They were small steps toward understanding the world and our place in it. With language, art, cooperation, and culture, humans began to form more complex societies. Communities could share knowledge about safe places to live, the behavior of animals, and the best routes across landscapes. Wisdom accumulated quietly over generations. Elders taught children not only how to survive, but also how to understand, plan, and imagine. Each human carried a growing store of ideas, memories, and skills, softly expanding the collective mind of the group. Communication in all its forms became a tool for survival and creativity. Storytelling allowed humans to record knowledge, entertain, and inspire. Songs and chants were not only soothing but also functional, helping groups move together, remember directions, or celebrate achievements. Language shaped thought, and thought shaped language, creating a gentle feedback loop that expanded intelligence without anyone noticing. Early humans were learning not only to survive, but also to think beyond immediate needs, imagining worlds beyond the forest or grassland where they lived. Art, language, and culture also encouraged empathy and understanding. Observing others, listening to stories, and sharing experiences quietly taught humans how to feel for one another. Cooperation was strengthened not only by necessity but by social bonds. Humans began to understand the value of helping, sharing, and protecting each other. This soft evolution of social intelligence was as important as physical changes in the body. Minds were growing in ways that were invisible but deeply influential, creating a foundation for all future human societies. Even the smallest acts reflected creativity and learning. Choosing the right stone for a tool, selecting a soft branch for a shelter, or arranging food carefully for preservation all required thought, patience, and experimentation. These everyday decisions, repeated over years and generations, slowly shaped human intelligence. Each choice was small, quiet, and deliberate, yet together they created a tapestry of knowledge that guided survival and adaptation. As humans spread across the world, these qualities helped them adapt to different climates, landscapes, and challenges. Knowledge of fire, tools, and social cooperation allowed communities to thrive in deserts, forests, mountains, and plains. Language and art carried culture across generations, creating a shared human experience. The slow, gentle accumulation of creativity, cooperation, and knowledge transformed humanity quietly, without urgency, yet profoundly. It is calming to imagine early humans sitting near a fire, carving patterns in wood or bone, sharing stories about the day's hunt, or pointing out stars in the night sky. Each action, each sound, and each careful thought contributed to the growth of human intelligence. Language, art, and cooperation were not sudden inventions but gradual, soft processes, building the human mind layer by layer, moment by moment. Even today, we carry the echoes of this slow growth. Our ability to speak, to create, to plan, and to cooperate comes from thousands of years of quiet learning. Every time we tell a story, solve a problem, or create something new, we are following a path traced by our ancestors. The rise of culture, language, and creativity was not a race but a gentle journey, moving forward patiently, softly, and steadily across generations. In these quiet reflections, we can imagine the world as our ancestors saw it. Each stone, tree, river, and sky held lessons. Each human, observing, experimenting, and sharing, contributed to the unfolding story. Art, language, cooperation, and culture grew like branches on a tree, quiet, patient, and beautiful, supporting the human mind as it expanded. And in this calm journey, humans learn not only to survive, but to imagine, connect, and create. A gentle evolution of the mind, quietly shaping the story of humanity. Even though humans have been around for tens of thousands of years, evolution has not stopped. Our species continues to change, quietly and slowly, in ways that are often invisible. The bodies we live in today carry traces of adaptations that began long ago, but they also respond to the world we live in now. Small differences in climate, diet, disease, and lifestyle shape the human body, creating gentle, ongoing changes. These changes are soft, almost unnoticeable, yet they remind us that evolution is not something from the past. It is still happening, quietly around us. One of the most noticeable ways humans continue to adapt is through diet. For thousands of years, people in different parts of the world have relied on different foods. Some populations eat dairy, while others rely on grains or seafood. In places where milk became a common part of the diet, people gradually evolved lactose tolerance. This means they can digest milk as adults, unlike other humans who may become uncomfortable or sick after drinking it. This adaptation did not appear overnight. It developed slowly over generations as people with the ability to digest milk had a slight survival advantage. Today, we see it in populations across Europe, parts of Africa, and the Middle East. It is a gentle reminder that even our stomachs are shaped by the history of what we eat. In high mountain regions, humans have adapted to thin air and lower oxygen levels. People living in places like the Himalayas, the Andes, and the Ethiopian highlands have developed changes that help their bodies cope with less oxygen. Their blood carries oxygen more efficiently, and their lungs can expand more fully. These adaptations are quiet but powerful, allowing communities to thrive in environments that might be difficult for newcomers. It is an example of how our bodies respond softly to the challenges of the world over long stretches of time. Climate also shapes humans in subtle ways. In hot regions, people tend to have longer limbs and narrower bodies, which help to release heat. In colder areas, bodies often become more compact, conserving warmth. Skin color is another adaptation shaped by sunlight. Populations closer to the equator tend to have darker skin to protect against strong ultraviolet rays, while people living in northern regions have lighter skin, which allows more vitamin D to form in the body. These changes are gradual, often measured in tiny genetic shifts passed from one generation to the next. They are gentle answers to the pressures of living in different parts of the world. Disease is another quiet force shaping humans today. Over centuries, populations exposed to certain illnesses have developed resistance. For example, some people have genetic traits that reduce the impact of malaria, while others have resistance to certain viruses or bacteria. These adaptations are not dramatic, but they have saved lives and influenced the survival of entire communities. Even in modern times, as new diseases emerge, our bodies continue to respond. The changes are subtle, often invisible in daily life, but they are a reminder that evolution is ongoing. Even our skeletons and muscles show traces of adaptation. People who grow up walking or running on different terrains develop slightly different leg and foot structures. Certain populations show differences in height, bone density, and muscle composition, reflecting the environments their ancestors faced. These changes are not always noticeable in a single lifetime, but over generations, they quietly shape how humans move, survive, and interact with their surroundings. It is evolution in action, soft and continuous, affecting the very framework of our bodies. Modern technology and culture also influence our biology in subtle ways. For example, the way we use our hands has changed over time. Typing, writing, cooking, and tool use shape our muscles and dexterity. Even our eyes and brains respond to modern life. Exposure to screens, urban lighting, and different diets can affect vision and cognitive patterns. These adaptations are slower than the evolution of thousands of years ago, but they are still part of the ongoing story of human change. Our minds and bodies adjust to new lifestyles, often without us noticing, quietly reflecting the pressures and habits of our time. Sleep patterns are another small but important area of modern adaptation. Humans who live in regions with long days in summer or long nights in winter may develop different circadian rhythms, adjusting how their bodies respond to light and darkness. Even social behaviors such as cooperation, communication, and attention spans may respond in subtle ways to modern environments. While these changes are softer than physical adaptations like skin color or lung capacity, they are still part of how humans continue to evolve. Nutrition continues to influence our bodies in surprising ways. Populations that rely heavily on carbohydrates, proteins, or fats have subtly different metabolic adaptations. Some people process sugar more efficiently, while others are better at metabolizing fat or breaking down starches. Over generations, these differences can become more pronounced, quietly shaping human physiology. Even the microbiome, the collection of bacteria in our guts, is influenced by diet and environment, and it, too, responds and adapts alongside the human body. Modern humans also show small adaptations related to social life. People who live in large communities develop skills for cooperation, empathy, and communication. Social interactions can influence stress levels, immune system strength, and even hormonal patterns. These are not changes in bones or muscles, but are still part of how humans respond to the pressures of life. Evolution in humans today includes the body, the mind, and the ways we connect with one another. It is quiet, patient, and ongoing. Height and body proportions can reflect environmental pressures as well. In certain areas, taller individuals may have been favored because they could reach higher food or see farther across landscapes. In other regions, shorter or more compact bodies may have been beneficial for warmth or energy efficiency. These variations are soft markers of adaptation, subtle changes that emerge over generations. They remind us that even today, humans continue to respond to the world around them. Dental adaptations are another gentle area of evolution. Modern diets are often softer and processed compared to ancient foods. Some people develop smaller jaws or fewer teeth over generations. Wisdom teeth, once essential for grinding raw foods, are now often unnecessary. The gradual reduction in jaw size and the occasional absence of extra teeth reflect the quiet ways in which our bodies continue to adapt to changing lifestyles. Even immune systems are evolving. Communities exposed to particular pathogens over generations may develop genetic advantages in fighting infections. Some people carry genes that provide extra protection against diseases that were deadly in the past. These small genetic differences do not create dramatic changes in appearance, but they quietly shape survival and health. Evolution works softly in these ways, often hidden but essential for life. Throughout all these changes, humans remain connected to their ancient ancestors. The same basic structures, bones, muscles, organs, and brain, persist, but they respond gently to new conditions. Each adaptation is like a small ripple in the river of time, quietly adjusting bodies and minds to the challenges and opportunities of modern life. This slow, calm process continues today, even if we rarely notice it. We can see modern evolution in action when we look at people from different parts of the world. Adaptations to heat, cold, altitude, diet, and disease are all present in subtle ways. Our bodies reflect the environments in which we grew up, the foods we eat, and the communities we live in. These are not sudden changes but soft, gentle responses that occur over generations, shaping the human species in small, ongoing steps. Even in the quiet of our daily lives, evolution continues. When humans walk, talk, sleep, eat, or work together, our bodies and minds adjust to the pressures and rhythms of modern life. Evolution is not a story only of the past. It is also a story of today, unfolding gently, patiently, and quietly in each person. Small adaptations, subtle changes, and soft shifts continue to shape humanity, just as they have for millions of years. In imagining the world this way, it is calming to think of humans as part of a gentle, ongoing story. Our bodies, minds, and communities are still evolving, shaped by climate, diet, disease, and culture. Evolution is quiet but constant, like a soft river shaping the land over centuries. Each generation carries the marks of the past and responds to the challenges of the present. In this slow, steady, and subtle process, humans continue to adapt, survive, and thrive, quietly adding new chapters to the story of life. Even though humans have existed for hundreds of thousands of years, evolution is not finished. The story of our species continues quietly, softly, in ways that we may not even notice. Just as the ancestors of humans adapted to their environment, so will our bodies and minds continue to adapt in the future. The world around us is changing faster than ever. Cities grow taller, technology moves faster, and the climate shifts in ways that our ancestors could never have imagined. Yet through all of these changes, evolution continues, like a quiet river flowing beneath the surface of our lives. Technology is already shaping the way humans live, and it may shape the way we evolve. Today, machines do many things our bodies once did. Cars carry us across long distances, computers handle calculations, and medical technology keeps us alive in ways that would have been impossible even a century ago. Some scientists wonder if future humans will rely on technology so much that certain traits, like strength or stamina, may become less important. On the other hand, technology might create new challenges that favor intelligence, problem solving, or adaptability in ways we cannot yet imagine. Our bodies may change more slowly than our technology, but the two will influence each other quietly over time. Environmental changes are another gentle force shaping the future of human evolution. Climate change is altering the temperatures, rainfall, and landscapes across the world. People may need to adapt to hotter conditions, stronger storms, and shifting food supplies. Our ancestors developed adaptations slowly in response to ice, sun, or altitude. In the future, these changes may continue in subtle ways. Skin, metabolism, and even the way our bodies use energy may adjust over generations to better suit new conditions. Just as humans once spread from Africa and adapted to deserts, mountains, and forests, future generations will adapt to the changing earth in quiet, steady steps. Disease and medicine also play a role in shaping us. Vaccines, antibiotics, and modern medicine have saved countless lives. At the same time, new diseases appear, and humans must respond to them. Some scientists believe that subtle changes in immunity may continue over generations, quietly altering how our bodies handle viruses, bacteria, and other threats. In this sense, evolution may continue in the shadows, invisible to our eyes but still shaping the survival of our species. Our bodies are like living records, carrying the quiet signatures of past battles with disease, and they may continue to evolve as new challenges arise. Social structures and culture are now influencing evolution more than ever before. Humans do not live in isolation. We form communities, build cities, and communicate across the globe. These environments create pressures and opportunities that can affect survival in subtle ways. Cooperation, empathy, and problem-solving are traits that may become more important in the future. People who can navigate complex social networks or adapt to changing communities may have advantages that subtly influence the course of human development. Evolution today may be as much about the mind as it is about the body, unfolding slowly in ways that are difficult to see. Nutrition continues to shape humans gently. In some parts of the world, diets are changing rapidly, with processed foods, sugars, and fats becoming more common. In other places, people continue to rely on traditional diets rich in natural foods. Over generations, these differences may create small changes in metabolism, digestion, and even body composition. The way humans eat has always influenced our evolution. Ancient teeth, jaws, and digestive systems adapted to hard, raw foods. Today, our bodies are responding to new kinds of food, quietly adjusting to what we eat and how we live. Even how we sleep, move, and think may influence our evolution. People living in urban areas experience light at night, longer work hours, and more sedentary lifestyles. Those living closer to nature have different patterns of activity, exposure to sunlight, and rest. Over many generations, small adjustments in circadian rhythms, sleep patterns, and energy use may continue to emerge. These changes are soft, almost invisible, yet they are part of the quiet story of human adaptation. Evolution is not always dramatic. It often works in small, patient steps, like the slow shaping of sand dunes or the gentle growth of trees over centuries. Genetic technology is another factor that may influence the future. Scientists are beginning to understand DNA more deeply than ever before. With gene editing, we may be able to correct diseases or alter traits. While this is not the same as natural evolution, it will shape how humans change in the future. Even without intentional edits, the information we pass down in our genes continues to carry the marks of our lives. Every choice, every environment, every disease, and every community we live in leaves traces in our DNA. In this way, evolution and human culture are quietly intertwined, guiding the story of our species forward. Adaptation to extreme environments may become more important in the future. Some people are exploring space, diving deeper into oceans, and living in harsher climates than ever before. These new environments may create subtle pressures on human bodies over time. Traits that improve endurance, lung capacity, or resistance to radiation might become more relevant, just as ancestors adapted to deserts, forests, and icy regions. Future humans may carry gentle changes that help them survive in places humans have never lived before. Evolution is not only happening on Earth, it may extend into the stars. Even small, everyday behaviors can influence how humans evolve. Activity levels, social habits, communication styles, and even how we handle stress can affect survival in subtle ways. Over many generations, these behaviors leave traces in our physiology and genetics. Evolution continues in whispers, shaping how we look, how we move, and how our minds function. Each individual may feel small, but over centuries, these quiet forces guide the development of entire populations, slowly sculpting humans in response to the world they inhabit. The beauty of this ongoing evolution is that it is soft and patient. It is not sudden or alarming. It works quietly, through small adjustments in genes, behaviors, and traits. Our bodies and minds continue to carry the legacy of the past while responding to the present. Every human being is part of this process, carrying the story of ancient ancestors and the subtle signals of future generations. Evolution is not finished. It is continuous, gentle, and deeply connected to the environment, culture, and technology that surrounds us. When we look at the stars or walk through a city, we can remember that humans are not separate from life's story. We are part of a long, slow, and patient process that has been ongoing for millions of years and will continue long after us. Even today, in every heartbeat, in every breath, in every thought and action, evolution continues quietly. We are participants in the grand, unfolding narrative of life, shaped by the past, responding to the present, and preparing for the future. It is peaceful to think that evolution is not rushed or harsh. It is calm and patient, moving slowly like a river over smooth rocks. Our bodies, our minds, and our communities are shaped by this gentle process. Each small adaptation, every soft change, every response to food, climate, disease, or technology is a quiet note in the symphony of human evolution. We are still growing, still changing, still part of the living tree of life. As you rest tonight, you can imagine the soft unfolding of human evolution, quiet and gentle like the slow opening of a flower. Our species has traveled far, from forests to plains, from deserts to mountains, across oceans and continents. And yet the story is not finished. Each person, each generation, continues this calm, beautiful journey. Evolution is alive in your body, in your thoughts, and in your dreams. It is a story without an ending, patiently shaping the future in small, peaceful ways. So tonight, as you close your eyes, imagine the gentle, quiet steps of evolution continuing all around you. Picture the soft unfolding of change, shaping humans in subtle, invisible ways. Let your mind rest in the thought that you are part of this long, slow, beautiful process. You carry the past, live in the present, and will influence the future quietly, gently, naturally. Human evolution is still happening, and in this moment it touches you softly, like a calm breeze under the stars.